I come from Rukunjiri district. I am a lawyer, a husband, and a father of 2 daughters. I'm a son to Mr. and Mrs. Canon James Byarugaba of Rujumbura Rukunjiri. I'm a grandson to the late Museveni Rwamukwaya Charles and Joy Kasimbazi of Rujumbura Rukunjiri. I'm a great-grandson to Museveni Kalemire, the brother of Milton Kamijereko, who is the father of Museveni Bukabeba Charles of Kajungu, who stay in the present-day Kashenyi village in Chitumba sub-county in Kabale district. History tells us that in the mid-1800s, about 1,400 Bachiga had settled in what is present-day called the Greater Kabale in southwestern Uganda. But as you know, the fertility of the women, of the Bachiga women, and the hard working amongst the Bachiga, by 1946, the colonial government had to resettle these Bachiga from Kabale to present-day North Kigezi in areas of Rujumbura, where I come from, because of the population explosion that had happened in Kabale then, and the fact that there was some free space in areas of North Kigezi. So although I come from Rukunjiri, but I trace my roots from Rujumbura and North Kigezi, for that matter. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go any further, I would like to pay tribute to Dr. Kizza Besigye, the gentleman who has seen me grow politically over these years. I was recruited in this struggle as a young boy in the early years, in the early days of Reform Agenda, because my parents were very, very active in Reform Agenda. And since then, I have been so active, but have largely grown up in the hands and in the eyes of people like Dr. Kizza Besigye. So for all the strength, for all the knowledge, for all the courage that I have, he is largely the person that we look forward to, has mentored most of us. And so it would be unfair for me to be having such an opportunity and fail to thank him for the great work he has done in raising us politically as young leaders in the FDC, but also in this country generally. I would also like to pay tribute to my party, the Forum for Democratic Change. Without the FDC, I could not have had the limelight that I've enjoyed for all these years. I could not have had the platform that I have been using to express myself. FDC party has given me the chance to associate, to assemble. It has given me the platform to express myself. And so I thank the party leadership of the FDC, currently the Honorable Patrick Amriat, for his leadership. I thank the FDC NEC and the rest of the party organs for the work they have been doing for all these years, which work has enabled some of us to have a platform which work has enabled some of us to have a platform to associate, to assemble, to speak out. Most of you have not known me for anything else except being an FDC diehard. And therefore, I cannot reach a moment without recognizing the contribution that such an institution has had on my life politically. 18 years ago today, when the reform agenda was launching its activities throughout the country, we had a vibrant chapter in Rukunjiri. And it is within that chapter that I was recruited. When we were recruited, together, me and other many young people, actually not only in Rukunjiri but throughout the country, our roles were limited. Attend rallies, blow whistles, carry tents and chairs on such functions, support candidates. Throughout the years, we have been growing up. And as we grew up, we are taking on different roles. It now has been 18 years, but of the 18 years, 15 have been under the FDC party. Certainly, we have been growing, and as we change roles, it comes to a time where you feel that as an individual, you should make a contribution beyond what you have ordinarily been doing. For purposes of moving together, permit me to reflect and just remind you, refresh your memory on the situation at hand, the situation that befalls us in this country. As you are aware, we are a country where there is the strong first families dominance over the state institutions and private enterprises. We are a country of a co-opted and compliant civil service. We are a country of conformist religious fraternity. A conformist religious fraternity. We are a country of an indifference of some of the cultural institutions. We are a country of a disempowered population. We are a country where the business elite owes their status and survival to the dictatorship. We are a country where there is lack of political cohesion among pro-democracy forces or forces of change, for that matter. Ladies and gentlemen, we are also a country whose opposition lack well-funded and organized foreign campaign relations that can do robust fundraising that can be able to support pro-democracy activities down here in the country. So upon that background, this is a situation that we have decided that we are not going to sit and coil our hands and see as it goes, as the country, goes astray. My senior colleagues, some of whom I hold in high regard, who are more experienced in this than ourselves, have strategically decided that this situation, we are going to fight back against it, but we will be using non-violence means. Now, colleagues, in a non-violence struggle, we are envisaging things like non-cooperation, mobilizing the citizens to withdraw their cooperation from government and its state apparatus. We are talking about demonstrations, peaceful demonstrations. We are talking about expressions. All these activities require leadership. All these activities require leadership. Remember that this is a situation that we could have chosen to confront violently, but we chose to confront it through peaceful means. And it was after a conscious decision. It was after a thoughtful process of knowing that as it stands today, we are better off struggling through non-violence rather than being violent, because the violence in itself has got its own shortcomings. It disrupts state institutions. It disrupts the economic order. It leads to a lot of death of people. As you know, the war in Ruwero claimed over 500,000 from what we are told by historians. So our decision to confront this through non-violence is out of the desire to build from what is already there. Now, if they used guns, if they used violence, and they had to take more than 5 years on record, and yet they were even building from other years of history of armed struggles to try and restore Uganda. If we are going to engage in a non-violence which requires patience, it means that we must do an extra effort, prepare various levels of leadership, prepare to engage the public as much as possible to change, because we are talking about changing mindset. The struggle we are in now is of changing mindset. So if we are talking about changing, the struggle of changing mindset, which involves patience, which might take some time, then it is only advisable that within the pro-democracy forces themselves, there are various levels of leadership. And as you know today, we already have the able leadership, senior leadership within the pro-democracy forces of the likes of Dr. Kizza Besigye, Lukwago, and many others. But as young leaders who have been in this struggle, we feel that there should also be another layer, another level of leadership within the struggle. Because we do not know how long this struggle is going to take. We do not know how long this struggle, the period, the years it might take. It can take a week, a month, year, or years. So if we are going to be able to build onto what successfully, to build on what has been achieved, then there must be many people who should be out there to educate the public. A few days ago, when I wrote to the Electoral Commission, I had two things in mind. One, I had reasoned that this is a process that has been established by the system itself, and so it will be able to respect it. What I'm talking about is that the roadmap of the Electoral Commission, the program where I am seeking to be a participant today, is a program of the regime. And so I reasoned that the regime would be able to respect it. Why was I interested in that? We would try to take advantage of the same program to reach out to the public. As you are aware, and you, the media, have been reporting ably on the numerous times that the FDC party programs have been disrupted. The very many times when our leaders, especially Dr. Besigye, have been plucked out of radio stations. So as I was writing to the Electoral Commission, my reasoning was that if I am cleared to go and hold consultations around the country, the Electoral Commission and government would be obliged to respect this program. And I would be able to go, because they would be looking at a Byamugisha Moses, an innocent, financially not able, less influential and little known young man. So they would let me, or I would be able to go to the public, and I would take the same message that Dr. Besigye and his colleagues in the forces of change have been struggling to take there, but with a lot of disruption from the state. So those things in mind. that the state will consider me a less known person, and so they will not put a lot of resources in disrupting me. And I would tactfully be able to reach out to the public, go to radios, hold town hall meetings, even have rallies where possible, and take there the same message that Dr. Besigye and the rest of our colleagues in the struggle have been struggling to take there. Because I have the message. I know the spirit. I know the urgency for which we need to reach out to the public. But I'm also aware of the limitations that we have, especially from the state, for us to be able to reach out to this public. So it's from that background, really, that I decide to write to the Electoral Commission. And as you saw, our program starts on 22nd with Kabale District. Ladies and gentlemen, apart from what has always been discussed within the pro-democracy forces, apart from the message that the rest of our colleagues have been having, as a person who has interacted with young people for some time now, as a person who has been moving around the country, and as you are aware, I contested for president of the FDC in 2017, and I had the pleasure to move around the country. I have since then been moving in various universities. So in addition to the work that we have already been doing with the rest of my colleagues in the pro-democracy forces, I have identified two other things that I would want to shine a torch on or highlight as part of our message in the struggle. And the first one is championing an inclusive youth-led change. Championing an inclusive youth-led change. We have been in this struggle. We have been pushing. For some of us who began as little boys putting on shorts and short-sleeved shirts, we have since grown up to become big men, gentlemen, fathers and husbands. And so, as young leaders within this struggle, we also have got additional interests apart from the other common interests that we have been pushing. Right now, I would like to draw the attention of the rest of my young colleagues around the country to pay attention to our roles, our responsibilities, and our stake within the struggle itself. Championing an inclusive youth-led change. All these senior leaders that are struggling, they are not struggling for themselves. They are looking at our future. It is us that they are struggling for. But our role as young people within the pro-democracy forces itself has not yet been felt. So one of the things that I am hoping to achieve within this campaign is to be able to revive the vibrancy of young people within, first of all, my party FDC, but also within the opposition and the pro-democracy forces themselves. That the young people would be able to rise within their various political parties or various political groupings, that the young people would be able to rise to the occasion, and we do the donkey work that this struggle requires, so that whatever comes thereafter, we have a big stake. In the transitional government or in the post-Museveni regime, even if we do not have a young person as a president, but we should be able to have a regime that puts interests of young people into consideration. And so that's what we intend to achieve. And I say youth-led, because really it should be youth-led. This struggle should be youth-led. If it's going to make the meaning that we want, this struggle should be youth-led. Secondly, it should be inclusive. When we say inclusive, I am first of all talking about inclusive in terms of generation, because again, when we say youth-led, some people begin to fear and say young people do not appreciate the role of elders in this country. No, we appreciate the role of elders. And that's why I am talking about inclusive. The other part of inclusive is that we would want to have a minimum agenda as young people. Because you see, young people, whether in opposition or in government, in the private sector, like you in the media, everywhere, we have the same problems. All we are struggling for is to be able to sustain ourselves, support our families, support our small businesses that we have started, and have a better future. In other words, whether you are in NRM or in the opposition, our future, the success of our future is bound together. And so I feel that as young people, it comes a time where we need to have a minimum agenda which we are struggling for. That even if you are within your political parties, or even if you are non-partisan, or even if you are in government, there is really an idea about a minimum agenda that we are struggling for as young people. And so that is one of the things that we intend to do. That's why I mean inclusive. We have reached a time where we need to have a conversation with even young people within the NRM, including young people within the security. What is their understanding of the kind of Uganda that we would want to go to next? And so that's why we talk about inclusive. So the first thing that I will be highlighting, in addition to what we have already been doing as the FDC or as the opposition, the first additional thing that I will be highlighting in my campaign is championing an inclusive youth-led change. The second thing is in regards to conversations about a negotiated transition. Because we have fought for years. The more we fight, the more each and every group is digging in. Those in power are digging in. Those in the opposition are digging in. They use it to say that it is us within the opposition who are radical. But today we also see elements within the ruling government who are more radical than even the people in the opposition. An indication that that situation is putting our country on a powder keg that we can explode anytime. And the moment we explode, if you see what is happening in the rest of the world, the moment the state collapses, the nation is gone. We would not want our country to reach that stage. We want to depolarize our politics. We would like to depolarize our politics. Because today there is a lot of polarization between what is right and what is wrong. And yet that may not necessarily be the case. So we would like to begin a process of depolarizing our politics and be able to have some kind of conversation. Be able to have an understanding amongst various players within the political elite, amongst Ugandans, regarding where we should go next. In other words, as the pro-democracy forces, as we continue to push Museveni and his henchmen out of power, we are going to try and leave a window. This is something that I will be really advocating for. That we try and leave a window of negotiation so that they can be able to negotiate their way out of power. Please mark my word, like it was said earlier. The nature of negotiation available is them negotiating themselves out of power. Not negotiating themselves to stay in power. It's not a power sharing. It's a negotiation about, so how do we live? What time do we have? Those kinds of things. Issues regarding prostitution. Where can we report properties that we might have received stealthily? Amnesty for those that are willing to, to cooperate with the new order. So, as I go out there to meet Ugandans, in addition to the work we have been doing as the forces of change, I will also be highlighting those two things. One, championing an inclusive youth-led change. Two, popularizing the idea of a negotiated transition so that the people in government can know that there is such a room. Because today, really, everyone is worried. Everyone is worried. The people coming in government are worried of what might happen if they win and the other ones refuse. The people who are in government are worried of what might happen if Ugandans withdraw their support and they have nowhere to run. So we can begin to have a conversation about that matter and see how to negotiate, how they can negotiate their way out of power. And again, I do this as a young man who is interested in stability, who is interested in a bright future for my country, who is interested in continuity. Because although although we blame the people in government that they have moved at a snail's speed in terms of progress, but there has surely been some progress that they have made. How we were in 1986 is not how we are today. We would like, of course, we note that we could have done better than we are doing today, but we would like to maintain that. We would like to build there. And as young leaders in this country, we would like to build on generations of work that our founding fathers of this country have been doing since independence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let me share with you, let me remind you on the kind of, the nature of how we intend to manage things eventually after we have restored order. To try and refresh your memory about the transition. Of course, we are talking about when everything has settled. When they have either negotiated their way out of power, or if they remained naive and Ugandans were able to mobilize Ugandans and they were able to push them out of power. We are looking at putting a transitional government in place. Now, when you are talking about putting a transitional government in place in a country like ours, which is deeply divided along region, tribe, and everything, then you are looking at putting together a team where almost every Ugandan can say, yes, I can see myself there. So there will be discussions about the nature of a transitional government, on how it will be structured. But one can begin to figure out that it can be some kind of like a presidential commission, where you have got about 7 ladies and gentlemen who are occupying the office of the presidency, whose 7 are coming from as much as feasible from the various divisions of Ugandans. Of that team, of the presidential commission, of the presidential committee, or the transitional government in that matter, the first thing will be about reviewing the constitution. The reason they need to review the constitution is to be able to facilitate legal and institutional reforms. Because today, really, as you can see, everything wrong the state does it within the law. It tries to use the law to squeeze, to shrink, to make sure that the space is shrinking. So we would have to undertake robust institutional and legal reforms. We expect that those legal reforms will be able to breathe some fresh air within institutions of government, and they will be able to breathe some fresh air within political parties. Then political parties will be able to reorganize and rebuild themselves. So when you have a Uganda where there have been institutional reforms, where there have been legal reforms, where institutions of government are operating normally, and political parties have been rebuilt and revitalized, then we can have elections. And this is something that should be able to take us within, the first 5 years or in a post-Museveni era. Of course, that process will also include a truth and telling commission. A truth-telling commission, where people really should be able to come and speak out about the various injustices. As you can see, there are various communities in this country that have faced a lot of injustice. All of you remember, our memories are still fresh on what happened in Kasese. Our memories are still fresh on what happened in Kanungu. Our memories are still fresh in what happened in northern Uganda for over the years. That up to today, you have nowhere to begin to push for justice for the people of Acholi, for the people of Lango, and for the people of Eastern Uganda. So there are various communities within this country that require justice, which justice can come in a truth-telling commission process, which can only be facilitated by a new order in place. We have hope, surely, that when we have done that, then Uganda will go back, will have been restored to a transformational agenda. And everyone else, even some of us, can be able to leave politics. For some of us who are lawyers, we would be able to go back to our law firms. We would be able to you know, there are some of my colleagues who have failed tomorrow because of the nature of the politics we are in. You can't sustain a family. All of us would be able to start up our small businesses and do our private things and leave the people in the government to run the affairs of the state on our behalf. And surely, as some senior citizens in this country promised Ugandans, then we can be sure that Ugandans will be met on Kampala Road moving with a swagger. I would like to thank you all. Ugandans, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for tuning in. And may God bless you. I wish I can give a big hug to all the 45 million Ugandans. Thank you very much. Yes. Mwebala okujja. Amanya nze Moses Byamugisha. Nva Rukungiri. Bazadde muzeeyi wange bamuyita Canon James Byarugaba ne mukyala we Alice Byarugaba. Nva Rukungiri mu ssaza lye bayita Rujumbura ne Bugangali sub county. N'omukyala n'abaana babiri abawala. Nva mu kika ndi mu kiga, nva mu kika kya Abahinda Kirani. And I'm a lawyer, ndi munnamateeka. Ekisooka njagala kwebaza nnyo Dr. Kizza Besigye ng'omuntu, kubanga gino emyaka gyonna gye mpangalidde mu byobufuzi mbadde ntambula naye, era akoze nnyo okutukwatirako ng'abavubuka nanyo abali mu struggle eno. Akoze nnyo okutukwatirako okulaba nti twekulaakulanya mu byobufuzi, twekulaakulanya mu struggle eno. So nebaza nnyo Dr. Kizza Besigye omulimu gwaze ng'akola, nanyo okutulaga ekkubo ng'abavubuka okulaba nti tuvaayo ne tulwanirira eggwanga lyaffe, kubanga azze ng'atubuulira nti talwanirira ye ng'omuntu, ali mu kulwanirira ffe kubanga alaba future yaffe ng'abavubuka, ng'abaana abato abali mu Uganda eno. So mwebaza nnyo kwogwo omulimu gwasobodde okukola. Njagala n'okwebaza ekibiina kya FDC. Mwabalala mwaze kuntegeera okumanya nga ndi munnakibiina kya FDC. Gino emyaka 15 gyonna ngimaze nga ndi mu kibiina kya FDC kubanga natandika nga mwendi. N'olwekyo sisobola kwekaka n'okwepaaka nti obukugu bwendina mu byobufuzi, nti obusobozi n'obumanyirivu bwendina ne experience gyendina mu byobufuzi, nti FDC tebirinaako mukono. FDC enyambye nnyo okukula ng'omuvubuka, ng'omukulembeze. FDC enyambye nnyo omukuntraininga. FDC empadde akakisa akatuuka mu Bannayuganda nga bwe mujjukira mu mwaka gwa 2017 nesimbawo nga party president ne mukulu Amuli Atona akulembera kati. N'olwekyo nafuna akakisa katambula mu Uganda nga candidate w'ekibiina kya FDC. So nebaza nnyo ekibiina kya FDC, ekibiina kyange kyenjagala nnyo. Nebaza nnyo abakulembeze ba FDC oliwo kati mukuru Amuriat ne yaliko wadde takyali naffe mukuru General Muntu ne General Muntu mwebaza nnyo kubanga amaanyi ge gonna okuva bwe yava mu government n'afuluma mu kibiina kya PAFO okuva olwo yatandika kukolera mu kibiina kya FDC okutuuka kati ye ne banne bwe basalawo nti kabayiye amagezi amalala bongeremu amaanyi mu mulimu oguze nga gukolewe naye newensinkana Muntu olwaleero musamu ekitiibwa nga pulezidenti wange. So abantu abo ekibiina kyaffe ekyo kikoze kinene nnyo okunfuula kyende. Nayingira mu byobufuzi emyaka 18 emabega wadde nyinza okulabika nga kyali muto mu myaka gyendina naye emyaka gyonna kumpi gyemaze nga mu matendekera ga waggulu emyaka 18 gyonna gyemaze nga ndi so active mu byobufuzi kubanga twayingira nga twambala empale ennyimpi n'obutishaati bwaffe nga tutambula mu byalo nga tufubwa fulembi new change nga tukwata amatabi nga twaniriza abakulembeze abaali bawagira enkyukakyuka mu biseera ebyo. Nze nzijjukira actually mu mwaka oba yali campaign ki Semwogerere bwe yasemba okwesimbawo nga president bwe yali Rukungiri 1996 Semwogerere bwe yajja Rukungiri okukuba olukungana wadde terwali n'abantu naye ndi omu ku baana abaaliwo actually nze yasitula n'entebe Semwogerere gye yatuulako mu kisaawe Rukungiri era twavaayo mu kisaawe Rukungiri ne Semwogerere omukutuuka Rukungiri mu tawuni ne batandika okutukuba amayinja. So nze wadde nyinza okulabika nga muto naye mu byokulwanirira enkyukakyuka mbiruddemu era nkoze nnyo nkoze omulimu munene ne banaffe abalala. Kati emabega kwawe ennaku ezagwako nawandikira Electoral Commission nga ngisaba enzikirize ntandike okutambula mu ggwanga nga bwe neebuuza ku bantu ku by'okwesimbawo kwange ku ntebe y'obwa pulezidenti bwa Uganda. Nga munaye ekibiina kya FDC nagenda okuwandiikira Electoral Commission nga ndina bye ntunuulidde nga ndina ebinduma. Nagenda okulaba nga ekibiina kyange tebakyakikkiriza okukuba enkungaana mu Uganda. Mujjukira bulungi runo olutalo lwali ekireka weeks ezaggwa emabega baali kumpi bagenda kuta Dr. Besigye bwe bamufuuyira mu mazzi kumpi kumusuula mu maaso g'emoroka. So nze nga mu kusalawo kwange okuwandiikira Electoral Commission nali nkimanyi nti ndi munnakibiina kya FDC naye nina bye nali ntunuulidde. Kisooka nga maze okulaba nti ekibiina kyange tebakyakikkiriza okukuba enkungaana. Nali maze okulaba nga abakulembeze baffe tebakyabakkiriza n'okutuula mu radio up country buli bwe batuula juzi ndooza yali mubendo bamityana security aba security batuuka n'okukozesa embazzi okumenya oluggi lwa radio station balyoke bajjemu Dr. Besigye. So ng'omuvubuka aludde mu kino ekintu abonyaabonye nnyo ng'ayagala n'embeera eggwewo nalowooza nti omuntu asobola okukozesa akanaakakisa ka programu ya Electoral Commission agiwandiikire bamukkiriza atambule eggwanga atwale message y'emu Besigye ne bannaffe abalala gye bazze nga baagala kutuusa mu bantu naye nga gavumenti ebalemesa. Kubanga eno programu ya Electoral Commission ni programu ya gavumenti. Ekitegeeza nti bwe mbawandiikira ne bankiriyalinga nti tandika otambule nga bwe ngenda okutandikira Kabaale ne banzikiriza kuba meeting town hall meeting ya maanyi nentwala message y'emu Dr. Besigye gy'abadde agezaako okutwala. Ekyo kijja kuba kiyambye nnyo ekibiina kyaffe, ekyo kijja kuba kiyambye nnyo struggle kubanga naraba nti nze bwe mpandikira Electoral Commission gavumenti ejja kugamba kana akavubuka after all tekalina na sente tera akamanyi so mukaleke katambule so nja kusobola kutuuka mu bantu nga teranta ankute ku mukono atenze uliwe ntuuka nga nzijayo message yemu banaffe balije babadde batwara n'olwekyo nzo kusalawo kwangu okwesimba nkikolera mu mutima mulungi nkikola ndina interests z'ekibiina kyange ku mutima ndina interests z'abakulembeze baffe ku mutima siri nti tekiri nti ndi mu kugezaako okukola ekintu ekirala wabula nabala nendaba nti tuli mu peculiar situation nabala nendaba nti we are in a very tuli mu mbeera etali ya bulijjo nendowooza nti tekyetaagisa okukola ebintu ebya bulijjo bwe kiba nti tuli mu mbeera ya bulijjo tetwetaaga kukola ebintu ebya bulijjo ate so nensalamu neŋŋamba nti kamba wandiikire now waliwo omulimu omunene gwe tuze nga tukola nga bannabyabufuzi abawagira enkyukakyuka ogwo omulimu omugumanyi bulungi bakulembeze baffe baze nga bagwogerako sijja kukozesa katayimu katono kenina wano okuddamu kugwogerako mpozi njagala kubabuulira nti ogwo omulimu nguwagira kubanga ngubaddemu era tujja kusigala nga tugutambuza okujjako nti kati waliwo ebintu bibiri byenjagala kwongerako nze ng'omuntu mweno kampini gye tugendako waliwo ebintu bibiri byenjagala kwongerako ku ebyo bye tuzze nga tukola nga ababadde bawagira enkyukakyuka ekisooka njagala kugende mu bantu nkunga abavubuka baddemu amaanyi nga bwe mukimanyi bannaffe abavubuka ebintu babivuddemu obulamu kati bwasigalira njayi bwasigalira sports betting tebakyayagala kumanya after all bwe balonda tebikola amakulu bakeera kumakya ne bagenda mu lines abala muntu mulala bye balonda tebikyakola amakulu so nabo babivuddeko eyo embeera eyo bwe tuba bwakugenda mu maaso mu eyo embeera ejja kuba enafu ya struggle yaffe n'olwekyo navuddeyo nengamba nti ndowooza nga omuvubuka abadde mu kino ekintu okumala gino emyaka ku experience ne exposure gyendina waliwo contribution gyenyinza okukola mu kuzaamu abavubuka amaanyi baddemu bakomewo buto tupushinga ekintu jjukira nti kati tuli kumpi kukimaliriza eyo ye message gye nayise champion okuzaamu abavubuka amaanyi ogwo omulimu tujja kugutambuza nga tutambulira wamu twagala tutambule n'abavubuka ab'omu kibiina ekya NRM twagala tutambule n'abavubuka abali mu private twagala tutambule na buli omu kyova olaba tugamba nti tuli inclusive mu by'emyaka tulina inclusive in terms of political thinking so ekyo kyekintu ekisooka ekirala kyenjagala kwongera ku ebyo bye tuze nga tukola ekyokubiri njagala genda mu bannayuganda nyongere popularizing twogere ku kintu kya negotiated transition enteesagana mu byenkyukakyuka olwaleero tetulinawo nteesagana yonna wakati waffe abagenda kuyingira n'abafuluma eyo embeera yaleesewo okuba nti buli omu kati ali mu kukozesa maanyi ku prospectinga wayimiridde abayagala kuyingira bali mu kukozesa maanyi agasembayo bali mu kukozesa maanyi agasembayo okulaba nti basigalamu kyagenza okuleetawo enkolagana mbi ate nga ffenna tuli bannayuganda wadde twagala nti bave mu buyinza ekyo tekibafuula abasudani tekibafuula abakongo basigala nga bannayuganda n'olwekyo ndowooza kiriba kirungi ne wabaawo engeri y'enteesagana ne tuba nga tusobola okutambula wamu nga bwe mukimanyi twakirangirira bulungi nti ezo enteesagana teziri ku nteesa ngeri gye banaasigala mu buyinza wabula nteesagana ezo tuba tuteesa ku ngeri gye basobola okufuluma ebintu ki bye basobola kuleeta nga tetunaba kubateeka omugwa mu bulago enteesagana engeri gye banaafuluma so tulowooza nti ebyo byonna bwe biba biwedde nga tuyingidde wajja kubaawo gavumenti eya transition gye tusuubira nti ejja kukolebwa okusinziira bana Uganda nga bali grouped nga bwe mukimanyi tulina enjawulo nyingi enjawukana nyingi mu byamawanga mu bya regions tribe wajja kuba tulowooza transitional government erina okubanga etugata fenna nga twerabawo awo mu government eddako eyo government ekole nnyo mu byokutereeza amateeka n'okugaruza obujja n'okuzza obujja institutions za government ekyo bwe kimala okukitereera kiba kitegeeza nti kati awo n'ebibiina by'obufuzi bijja kukomawo n'amaanyi bijja kuddibwamu amaanyi bimobilizinge bikole branches abantu babeere very active babeere mobilized mu bibiina byabwe kati awo tulowooza nti awo Uganda eba esobola kubeera n'akalulu ng'ebyo bigenda mu maaso wateekwa okubaawo two steering commission wajja kubaawo akakiiko Abannayuganda we banaagenda boogere ku nsonga ezisinga okubaluma kubanga mukimanyi bulungi abantu banyigirizibwa nnyo abantu b'e Kasese abantu ba Northern Uganda abantu beewa ebitundu bingi bya Uganda bifeesinze birino butali bumativu ku ngeri amateeka gazze nga gakolwa injustice there is a lot of injustice in this country and so two steering commission ejja kutuyambako okukola omulimu ogwo ekyo bwe kiba kiteredde Uganda tulowooza nti ejja kuba ezeeyo ku transformation ezeeyo ku gaali gitwala mu maaso naffe kati awo wetusobola okugamba take off awo wetusobolera okwogera ku take off nga munaffe omu bwe yatusuubiza ndowooza bwe tuba tutuusaawo era tujja kwesinkana ku Kampala Road nga tutambula ne swaga nga ffenna tuli basanyufu mwebale nnyo singa nsobola buli Munnayuganda wenna nandimuhadde ki high five ekihaga kinene mu ngeri y'okumulaga nti tuli bantu bamu mu Uganda emu mwebale nnyo